The lawyer for leading Russian opposition activist Alexei Navalny says he's waiting at the penal colony for access to his client following Navalny's transfer to a prison hospital. Mr. Navalny has spent 20 days on hunger strike in protest at being barred from seeing his own doctors. Our correspondent Sarah Rainsford in Moscow gave me the latest from sources close to Mr. Navalny.
Well, of course, it's very hard to get independent information about what exactly is going on because Mr. Navalny is in prison, and not only in prison now, but in a prison hospital facility. He's been transferred, according to the Russian prison service, to a facility in the town of Vladimir, and that apparently has a hospital facility there. The prison's statement said that that happened after he'd been examined by a group of doctors. But of course, it did come as well after a series of increasingly alarming calls from Mr. Navalny's supporters talking about his life hanging by a thread. That was one of the expressions that they used. They also said that he was at risk of dying within days because they'd seen blood test results which suggested in particular he had very dangerously high potassium levels and potentially could suffer a cardiac arrest. So after those alarming calls, we got this statement from the prison service saying he had been moved to a hospital facility, although Mr. Navalny's supporters are saying they believe this is simply a move to take him further away from them, make him less accessible, because apparently this is a TB facility, a TB hospital in the town of Vladimir, and that would obviously put it out of bounds to visitors and to his lawyers potentially.
This is, of course, headline news for many around the world. How's it being treated within Russia?
Well, you can take the Kremlin's response as one indication. The spokesperson for Vladimir Putin has just shrugged it all off today. He said that calls from international leaders, from the EU, from the US, about Mr. Navalny's health concerns, expressions of concern. He says that's none of their business, that this is simply a prisoner in Russia, and that in fact the Kremlin itself isn't even monitoring his condition. As far as it's concerned, it certainly wants to portray Alexei Navalny as just another prisoner. It wants to suggest that it is not following what's going on with his health and with those concerns about his health. But of course, at the same time, we have calls from Mr. Navalny's supporters for giant protests to take place right across the country on Wednesday evening to call for his release, or indeed for an independent doctor to be admitted to see Mr. Navalny in prison there. And that's happening on the same day as Mr. Putin is due to address the nation with his vision of the state of this country and his plans going forward. So I think quite a significant day coming up on Wednesday, potentially with those two big events taking place.